The Druze are an ethno-religious minority group that can be found throughout the Middle East, especially in areas around northern Israel, Lebanon, and Syria. Syria is home to the largest population of Druze, while Lebanese Druze make up the largest share of the population out of any given country, making up approximately 5% of the total population in Lebanon. The faith came to be during what is known as the Establishment Era, between 996 to 1043 CE. It was not until 1043 CE that the Druze faith became official as it branched away from Shia Islam. When looking at Druze communities outside of Lebanon and the rest of the Middle East, we can see that there are various diasporic communities around the world. This includes Canada, the United States, and Venezuela. Overall, the Druze population is 2 million people worldwide, with 30,000 residing in the US. Here, the largest Druze community resides in Southern California, with the main chapter being located in Eagle Rock. And this is where you will find me. Hi, my name is Leah Abisal. I am a member of the Druze community here in Southern California, as well as a primary researcher behind this study. Together, we are going to be taking a deep dive into this particular group of people and the ways in which they are transforming their faith after resettling in America. Before we take a closer look at this topic, I want you to picture this: walls and faith. If we take the Druze faith and put it in their perspective, we can see how these walls create internal solidarity amongst the community, walls that act as a tool in preserving the community's identity. It is important to mention that the Druze is a very secretive faith, one where membership is exclusive only to those who are born Druze. In other words, converting into the faith is not really possible. Not only that, but 80 to 90% of Druze members do not know much about their faith because the knowledge is exclusive to those similar to priests or monks. They are known as sheikh and sheikhas. Going back to the idea of walls and faith, it would seem that most Druze individuals are choosing to remain behind the walls of their faith. But what if I told you that there are individuals who are choosing to simultaneously straddle the walls of the Druze community and the outside world? What would this mean for their identity? To explore the questions I had concerning the transformation of Druze identity, I interviewed 10 Lebanese Druze individuals who immigrated to the United States within the last 60 years. I had intended to conduct these interviews in person. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, all ethnographic work was conducted remotely. All interviews were held over Zoom, where I implemented person-centered interviewing techniques, which involves a relatively open interviewing style with recurring meetings with the participants. With this established, I met with each participant approximately 1 to 3 times via Zoom. The participants were both men and women whose ages range between 22 to 70 years old. When it comes to the main findings of this study, there were 3 key concepts or themes that made themselves known in the context of Druze cultural identity. 1. Pride. 2. Affective ties. And 3. Fear. Each theme is derived from particular aspects of Druze life, that is, pride is loyalty, affective ties is belonging, and fear is outsider status. The first theme we are going to look at is pride. When it comes to the Druze people, pride is centered around the notion of loyalty of the Druze members to its community. This theme is important because it illuminates why Druzes continue to maintain Druze identity, although they are undergoing a process of cultural transformation. This theme can be seen through my first participant named Celeste. Celeste is a 50-year-old self-identified Lebanese Druze woman who migrated to the United States within the last 10 years and who now resides in Southern California. Although Celeste keeps up with aspects of the Druze faith, she said that it is not what makes up her Druze identity. Rather, her identity lies with the sense of community she gets from being Druze. To quote Celeste, she said that, "We don't need a priest to bring us together, or a religious institution. It's a loyalty we have for one another that brings us together." When I asked if Celeste could expand on this idea, she responded with, "The Druze way of life does not put a lot of pressure on us to practice. It gives us the freedom to do things without thinking about faith. We don't have to go to church, we don't have to go to mosque or pray 5 times a day, or fast. The main thing is that we follow the fundamentals of what it means to be Druze. so maybe that's why we are so attached to our identity and each other. In the case of Celeste, she appears to have an internal sense of loyalty to the Druze community, which is derived from the fundamental aspects of what it means to be Druze. This includes speaking the truth, protecting one another, treating one another as brothers and sisters, and acknowledging the struggles the community has faced. With the faith being so secretive, the sense of community is what reminds people what their values stand for. Celeste demonstrates this when she places an emphasis on the freedom Druzes have when it comes to practicing the faith, which in turn is a direct result of the secretive nature of the faith itself. The next key theme of effective ties revolves around the idea of belonging to a unique group of people, being a member of the Druze community. This theme is significant in that it stresses the strength that comes with belonging to a particular group and how this sense of belonging ties in with being part of the culture. This can be seen through a participant named Holly. Holly immigrated to the United States in the 1980s and during the interview placed an emphasis on a sense of belonging. No matter where I go in the world, I will always be able to locate other Druze and connect with them. We are like a big family. We are always looking out for each other and supporting each other. Holly also went on to discuss how easy it is for Druzes to find one another because of their last names and the villages they grew up in Lebanon. Druze people have unique last names that represent their Druze identity, and the same can be said for the village names as well. By asking a Lebanese individual what their last name is and what village they grew up in, a Druze is able to single out other people from their own community. These effective ties through Druze identification creates a sense of belonging amongst members of the community, one that signifies the existence of something more than just faith. The final theme of fear involves a few different sub-themes, and it is important to first look at fear in the context of the Lebanese Civil War from 1975 to 1991. To keep it brief, the war arose over tensions over political, religious, and ideological struggles within the country. In the mountains of Lebanon, the Jews faced opposition from other faith-based groups and were at war against them as well. Although it was difficult for me to get my participants to talk about their experiences during the Civil War, one participant named Lucy was open to discussing her own experience. Lucy was around 14 years old during the time of the Civil War and migrated to the U.S. with her family a few years afterwards. Before the war came up, however, and we will circle back to it in a moment, Lucy brought up the topic of marriage within the Druze community and how it was stressed that one should not marry outside of the community. When I inquired as to whether Lucy ended up marrying within the faith, she responded by saying, "Of course, how could I not? Even though men from other religions would ask me out, I would say no because of the fear of disappointing my parents." I followed by asking Lucy where she thinks this fear comes from. After much thought, her response was, "I think it comes from being afraid that you will become an outsider to the rest of the Druze community. If you marry someone who is not Druze, then your Druze status gets taken away. The community also neglects you after too. I think this is why most people chose to marry someone who is Druze." I was curious as to where this fear of marrying outside the faith came from, so I asked Lucy if she could tell me about where she believes this fear originated. This is where we circle back to the Civil War, as Lucy pointed out that during the war, different religions were fighting against one another for power. Being Druze is what set us apart from other religions. For us, we were fighting with the Christians, and this was not the first time we fought against them. I think our parents were so afraid of us getting hurt by these other groups of people that they felt it was safest for us to stay together. This fear remains prevalent in the Druze community today, as parents still stress the same message to their children. From this, I gathered that Druze individuals today stay together as a result of a collective fear of becoming an outsider to the community. Thus, Druze identity is maintained through transgenerational transmission of fear rooted in the Civil War. Because of a fear of losing Druze culture, parents have made sure to pass down their knowledge and understanding of what it means to be Druze to their children in an attempt of cultural preservation. Based off of the data presented, I can argue that Druze culture is an aspect separate from the Druze faith. With this in mind, why would one continue to identify as Druze? What sets Druze culture apart from Lebanese culture? First, Identifying as Druze in Lebanon is what set one apart from the general Lebanese population, and other religious groups use their faith in the same way. It is most likely that this practice carried over when Lebanese Druze individuals immigrated to America. Through the three key themes that come with Druze identity, pride, effective ties, and fear, it's clear that the Druze community is maintaining its identity through the transmission of Druze culture. Identifying as Druze means identifying with the values and pillars that come with being Druze, ones that are not necessarily tied to the faith. Being Druze means that members get to enjoy freedom of choice. This freedom is respected as long as the main values are adhered to. It is from this that one can see how certain Druze individuals have begun to straddle the walls of their community and the outside world. Thus, it appears that Druzeness, in the context of those who have resettled in the United States, is its own distinct ethnicity rather than a distinct faith. As a Lebanese Druze American myself who has experienced the process of immigrating to a new country, I have noticed an increase in my own interest towards the Druze culture after settling in America, although this interest was not present when it comes to the Druze faith. Not only that, but I notice experiences occurring with other Druze individuals that are similar to my own. As a member of this group, I have found it upsetting that there is a lack of literature surrounding the Druze community. As an undergraduate researcher, I hope to learn more about the diasporic experiences of Druze individuals and the way members continue to identify to the Druze culture, and in turn share this knowledge with the anthropological community. This will allow for recognition to come to a cultural group that most of the world have not yet heard of. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you all learned a little something about the Druze community.